Hey everybody, it's Greg Kettner. Thank you for being here today for the virtual engagement webinar. I'm excited to share with you what I've learned over the years, the do's and don'ts, the good, the bad, and the ugly with you. If you're on, please in your chat box or in the chat say where you are logging in from. I see Andrew and Jason, Jeffrey, Ryan, Tanya, Ben, Brad, Chris, Christine, Greg, Jeff, Tammy. This is great. We got a bunch of people on here. So Wally World, of course you are, Jeffrey. Good to see you. And Jeff Goldberg from Long Beach. Thank you so much for being on here. I am looking forward to sharing with you. So I want to take about 30 minutes of everybody's time, and I know time is valuable. So I want to go through this quickly, and I'll begin. And I have a special guest that is agreed to join us, a friend of mine. He's quarantining himself as well from Las Vegas, Nevada. So please welcome and listen diligently to my friend, Brian Regan. Where are you, Brian? There you are.
We just moved. I called UPS to ask them to help out with some boxes. Now, they're a good service, but you have to have information ready about your boxes before you even call them. I had no idea. I called them up. Yeah, I have 10 boxes. You come pick them up. We need to know the weight and the girth. Okay, goodbye. So I called back. We need the weight and the girth. Okay, I don't know what the weight is, and I don't know what girth means. So now what's the procedure? So this guy talks to me like I'm 4 years old. Well, do you have a bathrobe scale? Yeah, but if I put the box on the scale, it's going to cover up the numbers. Take them off really quick. 0, I'm not fast enough. What's he talking about? So then he gives me like his Mr. Wizard formula. How about if you stand on the scale and weigh yourself, get off the scale, pick up the box, get back on, weigh you and the box together and subtract your own weight. I'm going, slow down. Hold on, Professor. I know this guy's never tried this, because I tried it, and you still can't see the numbers. Mr. Olympia? £3. Girth formula. It was easy. You know, the girth is very simple to figure out. You take the length and you double that by the smaller of the height after you triangulate the hypotenuse from the third side. Okay, I gotta go. Another call. I'm too stupid to talk to you. I just want to not be on with you any longer. So this is true. I figured I would call back and just make up some numbers, you know. Come out and pick them up. If it's wrong, I'll pay the difference. Just dispatch the truck. So I called back. Yeah, I have 10 boxes, and no, I'm another guy. Yeah, and they all weigh exactly 22 pounds, and they all have a girth of 3. 3 what? 3 girth units. Come pick them up, please. I'm begging you. And they're brown, and they have tape all on them, and they probably fit on a dollar.
So that's Brian Regan, a very funny comedian, one of my favorites. And my wife got me tickets back in Portland, and we got to meet him and watch a show. So it was a lot of fun. But I start my Zoom meetings, my virtual meetings, with humor. It's one way really to engage people. Like Brian was doing in the club. He had a full club. Everybody was focused on him, his words, his message. And so humor is one way that we can start our meetings and be very engageful with people. First off, just a quick agenda. And if you're joined us just a little bit late, my name is Greg Kettner. I'm the host of the webinar, and here to serve you and share with you things that I've learned so that the next virtual meeting you are on, it could be more engaging for everybody involved. So a quick agenda: what are the benefits of engagement during the virtual meetings? Are virtual meetings the new normal? 3 ways that we can engage virtually. And then at the end, we'll be doing some questions and answers. So who am I? My name is Greg Kettner. I live in Walla Walla, Washington. I'm a keynote speaker and a sales consultant. I help my clients and businesses develop championship sales teams to where they can align their people, patterns, and profits with humor to be even more successful. Over the 25 years of my sales career, I've worked for numerous companies, including Nike, the Vancouver Canucks, the Vancouver Whitecaps of the Major Soccer League, and SAP, probably one of the biggest software companies in the world. And during that time, I have learned from others and have used humor. And now I'm doing this online as well to sell, where I've sold over $12 million of products and services. During my sales career, about 12 years ago, I stepped up on a stage at an open mic in Vancouver and started doing stand-up comedy. Did that for 6 years. It took me 6 years to figure out that I liked money more than comedy. And so here I am now. I'm blending my sales with my comedy career to help others to use humor, to use laughter in the workplace, and more specifically today, how to engage people online, virtually from here. Also, I've had the privilege of working with Robin Williams and with Norm Macdonald, which is a lot of fun, and I can tell you stories later on offline, if you so choose. And also too, I've been on over 300 plus webinars. I think this is 317, if anybody's counting. So like I said, I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, and I want us all to be better so that we can engage people, we can sell more, we can share a message, and we can brand ourselves as best possible. So what are the benefits of virtual meetings or webinars? Number one, increase sales. The more engaged people are listening to your message, finding out what you're offering, the more sales you will have from your virtual meetings. It's just a given. If people are on there, their video screens aren't on, they're talking, they're chatting, they're playing on their phone, you're not going to create as much sales from your virtual meetings. And if you're a company or an employee, it's more cost effective. Before COVID started, I went down to a speakers conference down in LA, and by the time I paid for my plane ticket, my hotel, the car, and food, and the conference, it was about $1,500. And here we are today on a free webinar, getting the same advice and insights, different topic, but we're getting these for free. And so that helps out on cost efficiency. Increased attendees as well too. I'm standing in my office here in Walla Walla, and we have 22 people on this call right now, which would be a lot more difficult if I had to go book a hotel room, get people to fly in, spend all that money to learn here today. So it increases your attendees and your reach, whether you're selling or you're educating. And it also increases our productivity. When people are engaged, meetings can be more concise, more condensed, and it allows us to work better together. But when people are distracted and not listening, the meetings go on and on, like many of us have been on those Zoom meetings, and you're just like, when is this gonna wrap up? So here are some facts about virtual meetings. I know we're in the middle, hopefully, or the end of the pandemic, and I hope everyone is doing well and safe. I know we are, but things have changed. Zoom, for instance, in November of 2019 had 10 million members and users. As of a month ago, they're up to 300 million. So it's completely changed the landscape of meetings, of business, of how we connect. I currently use Zoom meetings for talking with my family, talking with my friends, the webinars, and for my speaking and comedy events. So we're on it a lot. And now surveys show that 7 out of 10 employees are now working from home. I mean, we have 20 plus people on here, so at least 2/3 of us are working from home, doing our jobs just as effectively because we're able to do that virtually. And they also say that 56% of us will continue to work from home after the pandemic has subsided. Already Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Salesforce have announced that their people are going to be working from home at least through summer of 2021. And it's interesting because as things have changed, we're getting used to this. This is the new norm. And now companies are actually giving people additional funding from anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 to set up a home office. So I believe that virtual meetings are going to be way more in demand, and it's not going to be like it was before. And if we can learn to conduct a virtual meeting as close as we can to a real meeting within an office or a boardroom, we're all that much farther ahead. So here's a quick Google search that I pulled up. And here is the meeting view zone, right on the left-hand side of the screen, and then the non-meeting view zone. Fortunately for me, my wife has helped me set up my room, so you are only seeing the meeting room zone, but on the other side of my laptop is a window, and I get to see my neighbors and people walking by, so it keeps me very happy. And one point on that, I face my window because natural light is probably the best light unless you have a studio light system set up. But if you are on a meeting and you want to be visible, you want to be engaging, face towards an open window, natural light is probably the best for everyone. And here's tip number 1. I'm a big sports fan, as you can see over here. I've got my Wayne Gretzky game worn jersey. And so a lot of my analogies are tied to sports. And so the 3 tips that I want to go over with you today are tied with sports as well too. If you're playing a hockey game, you have a pregame routine, things that you do before the game even starts. And then you have a warm up to the game before you actually start playing. Get your legs loose, get your breathing, get your mind in gear, and then you play the game. So tip number 1 in the pregame, there's a lot of things that we can do before the camera even goes on. I started planning for this meeting 2 weeks ago, sending out my emails, creating slides, engaging people, asking them what they wanted to hear, that sort of thing. And then 3 days before, which is very critical, I got on a Zoom call with my friend and I went through the entire program. Because when you set up your program and you make sure that your sound is on, your video works, you look good, your room looks good, it's not cluttered, it's that much more engaging. And when we're engaged, we tend to be more productive, have more fun, and get more sales at the end of our meetings. Also do a test run 15 minutes before. Becky jumped on with me 15 minutes before. We made sure, again, that the sound was great. I had water. A test run is great too. If you have to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom before you start your program so you don't have to leave and embarrass yourself by going to the bathroom and carrying your phone while you're still on full sound and video. Another part of tip number 1 is to have a co-host, someone who can help out if people have questions in the chat, or if people are talking too loud. And one of the differences between a webinar and a Zoom meeting or a virtual meeting, is a webinar, if you think of it, like if you went to see Tony Robbins speak, or if you're at church, right? The preacher's up front, we're all sitting in the pews and we're listening. So a webinar is more of a one-sided conversation, but at the end of the webinar, we can open it up through my co-host and people can talk and we can have a conversation that way. Whereas a virtual meeting, everybody's on screen, we look like the Brady Bunch, and people can talk. So the one tip on that is if you have a co-host, they can mute all participants until somebody is ready to talk. They can put up their hand, ask a question, and go from there. And fourthly, create an agenda. I don't know how many meetings I've been on where everybody gets on and the meeting just starts. There's no agenda. Nobody knows what's going on. And so it's a great way to do that. And yes, I did do an agenda. So we're covered there. Tip number 2, engage with people from the beginning. And I know that this might not need to be said, but smile. Act like you're having fun. I've been on so many meetings when people just stand there, they haven't shaved, they've just gotten out of bed, they could care less whether they're on. So be engaging, be smiling, be attentive, and when you start your meetings. Another great way to engage at the beginning is have introductions. This is a little bit different. I introduce myself, but if you're having a team meeting, you have the Brady Bunch screen in front of you, and you can go around the room and say, hi, everybody, how are you doing? Please give me your first name, your pet's name, and your favorite ice cream. And then that way, everybody gets 30 seconds to say who they are. You feel more connected, especially if there's new people in the meeting that you have not met yet. Also, too, you can change your names. I know on Zoom, if you're looking at your screen, there's 3 dots. You can change your names and play a fun game if you're hosting the meeting at the beginning. Right? Everybody will change the name to their first name, and then the last name would be their pet's name. And now if I did that here, it would be Greg Nachos, which is odd, I know. I don't know why my brother called my dog Nachos. Maybe it was his favorite food, but it's just one more thing. And having Greg Nachos up there, it triggers our memory. And so we'll remember, oh, Greg Nachos, his dad, his dog, his brother, and he likes hockey. You can also do virtual activities on meetings. When everybody's there, icebreaker, you can do a scavenger hunt. So you tell everybody, all right, on the count of 3, run around your house and find some fingernail clippers. And the first one who comes back has the fingernail clippers is the winner of that, and they get to choose the next item. So household items, you can do that. You can play pass the ball. And so you have a virtual ball that you throw up to somebody else, and you yell their name, they catch it, then they introduce themselves, and then they throw the ball to somebody else. So it's just a way, briefly at the beginning of a meeting, to engage people so people know who each other are, know where they're from, and you find that common bond that you can work together to be productive. And then finally, start out with some housekeeping rules and regulations, if you will. I'm not one for rules, but it does help if you set up your meeting the way you want it to be held. You can tell people, if you have a question, please put them in the chat box. Everybody will be on mute to the end of the meeting. We'll try and get to many as we can. Also encourage your participants to have their video on. If people have their video on, they are much more engaged because they're not focused on another phone call or going to get dinner or disciplining the dog or whatnot. I was on a webinar or a team meeting last week. I'm on a board, and the leader of the meeting, in the middle of the meeting while he was talking, his phone rang, and he picked up the phone, had a conversation. Luckily, it was only about 2 minutes, but he had a conversation, put the phone back down, and kept on back to his virtual meeting. So here were the rest of us, all 12 of us, wondering, well, why should I be engaged if the host is not engaged? So always make sure that you tell people to put themselves on mute, put their video cameras on, and questions at the end, or however you want to run the meeting. That'll bring everybody together. It'll let people know the ground rules, what rules we're playing by, and thus everybody will be even more engaged during our meetings. And tip number 3, like I did with this meeting, I started out with a video of Brian Regan. It's very funny. It kind of connects us because we've all had to go to the UPS store and ship boxes. But when we laugh, it releases serotonin in our minds, and that makes us more creative. That helps as well too. And most of us here are adults, I consider myself a kid still, but it's interesting. Research shows that as adults, we only laugh 17 times per day on average. And as kids, it's 300. So the more we laugh, the more engaged we are, the more creative, and the more attentive we will be. It brings people together as a common bond. And the only thing I'll say with the laughter in the videos, watch the video all the way through, because I have heard of people putting on a video and the first 2 minutes was great and then it went off the rails. So whatever video you're playing, make sure it's HR approved and that you watch it from beginning to end so you don't have egg on your face by the end of your virtual meeting. There's also a lot of different things. Today we're on Zoom, and I have no affiliation with Zoom other than that I pay them money. But Zoom is a great platform. There's also StreamYard, which is really great. StreamYard is similar to Zoom, but you can share it. So you can do a Facebook Live, a YouTube Live, and LinkedIn Live all at the same time. You can use the chat box. If you're in a meeting, you can chat privately or publicly. Don't get the two mixed up, because if you have an inside joke and you're doing it publicly, it's no longer an inside joke. And also videos, cartoons, whatever works for you. You can also do a poll, and I've created a poll for our meeting here. So if I can get everybody to vote here, it's just 3 short questions. I'll pull it up and then we'll launch the poll. So the first question is, how many virtual meetings or webinars do you attend per month? Question number 2, are you wearing pants? And question number 3, how did you hear about this webinar? So let me launch this, and then it should, if everybody can put their numbers in, we'll give it about a minute here. And hopefully everybody can see that. There we go. Too many, a lot of too many's, 7 to 10. 50-50 on wearing pants. That's great. I have shorts on, so that includes. And then question number 3, how did you hear about this? Facebook looks like a leader. Looks like I need to do a little bit more work on LinkedIn and Instagram and a friend and email. So we'll end the poll here. But the polls, excuse me, are a great way to engage people as well too. So now you can share this poll with people. It looks like the winner from how many meetings was 4 to 6 at 35%. And pants wearing people are at 65, which is great. If you don't have pants or shorts on, I'm glad you're not on my screen. And then how do you hear about us? A whopping 65% was through Facebook. So that'll give you an insight into how you can help further your next meeting, get farther ahead, be more engaged. Obviously from that one poll, I now know that I'm doing a great job on Facebook, but I need to step up my game when it comes to LinkedIn and Instagram and asking for referrals to get more people on the webinar. And the last tip on number 3 is storytelling. Everybody loves a story, and you've probably all gone to the conferences, to virtual meetings and whatnot. You may not forget what the person said, but you will remember how you felt and the stories that they told. So they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. A story is worth 1,000 pictures. And I'll tell you a quick story that you can use freely. There's no copyright on the story. But again, telling a story is how you can engage people. There was this older couple, a grandma and grandpa, been married for years, a wonderful life, wonderful family, wonderful kids. But at the beginning of the marriage, the wife talked to the husband, and she said she had a shoebox that she put up in the cupboard. And she told her husband, she said, no matter what, during our whole marriage, never, ever, ever look in the shoebox. And the husband was a smart man, so he said, all right, honey, no problem. So up went the shoebox into the cupboard. And again, great marriage, kids, grandkids and everything. But as time went on, they were getting older, and the wife became ill and she was on her deathbed. So her loving husband every day was taking care of her affairs and the paperwork and doing this and getting the house and everything ready because they knew she was going to be passing on. And it came down to the shoebox in the cupboard. So he went and got the shoebox and he came down, he sat down beside her, beside the bed, and said, honey, the shoebox, I don't know what to do. You told me to never look in it. I never have. I've honored you through all these years. What would you like me to do? And the wife looked over at her husband and said, you know what? I guess it's time. You can open the shoebox. So he opened up the shoebox, and inside were 3 crochet dolls and $60,000 in cash. And his mind was just blown. He's like, I have no idea what this means. And so he asked his wife, he said, honey, what does this mean? And she said, well, before we got married, my mother told me to never go to bed mad at you. But if I was mad at you before I go to bed, all I would need to do is stay up and crochet dolls and everything would be fine. He was just overcome with emotion. He couldn't believe it. $3, 6 years. He goes, I love you so much. I'm going to miss you. And they're crying. And so they get it together and he goes, okay, I understand the doll portion, but what about the $60,000? And she says, well, honey, that's money that I made selling all those dolls. So it's a great story that you can tell. You can put any kind of lesson on it, or it doesn't even have to be a lesson. But again, when you tell a story, you paint a picture for people. People are drawn in. It takes them off their phones. It takes them from worrying about their pets or about lunch or whatever else that they have on their mind. And all right, this is not. All right, so, there's a picture of Grandma and Grandpa. So my motto is, and I'll share it with you, change your world one laugh at a time. I think it's so important that we laugh, especially during COVID. It does so many positive things for us, and especially when we're online, if we're ourselves, if we're smiling, if we're engaged, if we lead by example on these meetings, they will be much more beneficial to you and your attendees. And just, I want to do a couple more bonus. I put some more stuff in here. And at the end of this, someone put in the chat box the PowerPoint presentation. I can definitely email that out to you. I'm happy happy to help out however I can if you have any questions as well. But just lastly, the bonus tips, look into the camera because it's a lot weirder if I'm looking down here or over here or, you know, I mean, I got my phone, I got to do some TikToking later on. But this, looking into the camera, it's engaging. You can see the person that you're talking to, especially on meetings. You're not distracted. I was on a webinar and a girl who was leading it, an older gal, was talking about how to present yourself and how to, you know, not be too far back from the camera, not too forward to the camera. And she got really close, right? You could see the nose hairs kind of thing close. And the sound went on and off and her screen blipped and whatnot. And she's like, oh no. And so she sat back up to normal. And then she spoke without thinking about what she was saying. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. My breasts were punching the keyboard, which was hilarious at the time. And I'll never forget it. But as long as you're focused, looking into the camera, being engaging, it'll get your attendees to be more engaging as well. Tone and inflection can be very powerful as well too. When you're making a point, it can be louder or softer. You can speak faster or slower depending on where you're going. But if you're talking in a monotone voice the whole presentation, the number of attendees will drop rapidly. So be aware of that as well too. Third on the list is physical appearance. There's a lot of people and there's a lot of debate still. I mean, the whole virtual meetings is rather new. Some people are in a 3-piece suit. Other guys are in jeans and a t-shirt. But dress the way you would want to see other people dressed. If you're showing up at a meeting and it's business casual, be business casual. Look professional. It makes you stand out. It makes you look more like an expert. So just be mindful of the physical appearance. I've done shows. I was doing a comedy show and one guy got on there and he was still in bed. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Turn off the video. We don't need to see you in bed. at 7 o'clock at night. So make sure of your physical appearance and what is around you. And lastly, smile. Smile is great. You don't even have to say anything. You don't even have to speak English. But if you smile at another person, if you're walking down the street, or if you wave at them from a car, it communicates, hey, we're engaged, we're friendly, we're human, and we're here together. So always smile, not just on virtual meetings, but all the time. It makes life so, so much better. And now I want to open it up. Becky, if you could if you have a question, if you can take yourself off mute, I think you can do that. And if you want to talk. Does anybody have any questions?
We did have one question, which was if we don't have video available to us, how do we engage people just with audio?
Okay, I think that's a great question. I think it's more on acting as if there is a camera on you, right? You can almost tell somebody when you're talking on the phone, you know, if it's a loved one or your parents, you know that they're happy, they're smiling, they're engaged just by the sound of their voice. Or if you're talking to a bill collector, they're probably not as happy to see you. So that is one thing. But if you know, if you have a smartphone, you can buy cameras that you can attach to your desktop for $20, $30. Logitech is a great company, and you can get that on Amazon.com. Anybody else have any questions that I can quickly go over? Jason, is it okay to encourage others to call who have video turned off to turn it on so you can see them? I think it is, Jason. Like I said, the webinar that we're on right now, it's just me that is being showed. But when you're on a team meeting, if people don't have their videos on, they're not engaged. And I've told people before this, you know, if you're not going to have your video on, why are you on the call? So I think it's appropriate. Obviously, say it nice. But yeah, great. Bill, does standing up during presentations make a difference in engagement? I think it does, Bill. I was on your webinar yesterday, and I felt like you were there. You were in a meeting, you were presenting, you're the expert in what you do, the 800-pound gorilla. And if anybody's into sales, you want to connect with Bill. So I believe it does, Bill. And also, when you're standing up and speaking, it allows you to breathe better. You're not hunched over, you're not falling asleep. So I think it does. Thanks for the question, Bill. Integrating video due to technology malfunction potential. What are the suggestions in lieu of video? Great question, Chris. You can use cartoons or memes. GIFs probably wouldn't work video. I have a Logitech clicker, and when you set it up and you do your practice, it's pretty easy now that once you embed the video in your PowerPoint presentation, you can get your clicker, the video will play, and then you move on from there. Hey, Suki, how are you? Suki and I met at the speaker conference with Jake down in California. Should we start a meeting with a funny story or joke? I sometimes start with a poem about teachers. I think that's up to you, everybody else. If you are, you know, it depends on your talk. I think and I know, Suki, that you work a lot with children and helping them grow and learn. So it really depends upon your presentation, but if you want to get people's attention, a good way to either be funny or start differently, I guess, because it seems like all the webinars I've been on, people get on, they say, hi, I'm here, let's get started. And sometimes you don't even know what people are starting to talk about. What else? The meeting, funny story. Okay, I will go through these after and get back to you. I know time is of essence. It's 35 minutes in. So I really, my sales pitch to everyone on here, and again, thank you so much for being on here. We will put it up on the Humor Lab and on Facebook if people want to rewatch it, if you want to share it with your friend. But if any of this really resonates with you and you have more questions or you're brand new to virtual meetings, I want to be the person that helps you make your virtual meetings better. Whether you're on a sales meeting or a board meeting or a team meeting, if you're a CEO and you're not sure how to do this, or if you're a teacher, you want to learn how to talk to your kids better, keep them more engaged. So if you click on the discovery call button there, it'll give you a link, and I'll just type it in here to the chat as well too. But here's my calendar. I would love to have a quick conversation with you if any of this resonates, and then we can decide if this is something, if you do need help coaching through this whole process. So it's a 6-week course, but would love to talk with you further to see if that's something of value to you, to your business, or to your company. So that's all I have for today. I would love to talk with you further offline. Happy to set up calls. But again, if this resonated, if I can further help assist you to make your virtual meetings better, I'd be more than willing to have a quick call, see if it's the right fit for both of us, and then we can go from there. And I just left my calendar link in the mail. So I will leave you at that. Thank you again so much for being here, everybody. I really appreciate it. Thank you to my mom for jumping on. My goal when I started was to have one person on this webinar, and my mom jumped on, so I made it there. So I love you, Mom. Thank you for everything. Have a wonderful week. Don't forget to laugh. Be good, be safe, and we'll see you again. Thank you, everybody, so much.